Welcome to the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast, where we aim to help fellow veterinary rehab therapists increase their knowledge and elevate their practice. I'm Megan Kelly.
And I'm Anae Lloyd. Together, we bring you the latest insights, research, and information in the field of veterinary rehabilitation.
This podcast is brought to you by Onlinepethealth, a leading continuing education membership for veterinary rehabilitation therapists. With Onlinepethealth, you'll have access to a wide range of online resources to help you stay up to date with the latest techniques, advances, and trends in the industry.
Our podcast features in-depth conversations with leading experts in veterinary rehabilitation. They share their own experiences and knowledge to help you improve your practice. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the field, our goal is to provide you with the tools and the insights you need to succeed.
So join us as we explore the exciting world of veterinary rehabilitation and help you take your practice to the next level. Hey vet rehabbers, in today's podcast, I'm excited to chat with Kate Lockwood about her unique journey from veterinary nursing to becoming an osteopath. Kate offers us a glimpse into running her mobile practice in the beautiful rural areas of southern France. She opens up about the challenges she faced compared to the UK and shares some invaluable advice for anyone starting out in this field. Now, mobile practices have their own set of hurdles, and that's why we put together a resource specifically for mobile practitioners. It's called Give Your Mobile Practice Wings, and it's a free download available at onlinepethealth.com/mobile. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to Hannah Johnston for the shout out on Instagram stories about the Veterinary Rehabilitation Podcast. Please reach out to me, Hannah, on meg@onlinepethealth.com so I can gift you your limited edition veterinary rehabilitation mug. A quick word from our sponsors before we head over to the chat with Kate. Nada first developed her courses at the Colorado State University, where she started the medical acupuncture for veterinarian certificate program in 1998. In so doing, Dr. Robinson developed a science-based platform for veterinary acupuncture, the first of its kind. Today, Curacao Vet offers a comprehensive curriculum in integrative medicine with a rational evidence-supported foundation. Courses include medical acupuncture, photomedicine, botanical medicine, medical massage, and integrative rehabilitation. You can discover Curacao Vet at curacao.org. All right, over to my chat with Kate. Hey, Kate, thanks so much for joining me.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here.
Kate, won't you tell us about yourself and how you got into the field of vet rehab?
Certainly. So I started out my career back in the early 90s as a veterinary nurse. I'd grown up on a farm. I'd been around animals all my life. I've had horses, dogs, cats since I was tiny. So went into the career of veterinary nursing back in the early 90s. I graduated from the Royal Veterinary College in London and then worked in a top referral centre in the middle of London for several years, where we had a lot of different specialists, a different specialist every day of the week coming. And it was really great, really interesting. And at a certain point, it kind of came around the time when I moved my living accommodation out of London. So I was having to then commute in and out of London. And that became too much for me. So I thought, okay, I want a little bit of a change. I tried going back to work in just a country veterinary practice, but because I'd worked in this really high-end referral practice, it just didn't stimulate me enough working in a normal practice, if you like. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to still be working with animals, but to be able to offer something very much from myself. And I was having treatment at the time from my osteopath because I've fallen off a gazillion horses in my time of riding and have lots of different back issues. And he said to me, why don't you train to become an osteopath? Because then you can treat people and their horses and animals. And I said, I don't think I could ever do that. It's beyond me. And he said, no, of course it's not. So anyway, I spoke to my husband, who was not my husband at the time, but he stuck with me and said, it means at least 4 years going back to university, giving up work, spending a whole heap of money, taking out loans, all that kind of stuff. And he completely backed me, thankfully. So I then went on and trained, graduated from the British College of Osteopathic Medicine, which is in London as well. And that was for humans. So that was in the early 2000s, and graduated from there with a with a bachelor's degree in osteopathic medicine for humans. At that time, it was very, very early days for there to be a full animal qualification for osteopathic work. But I was lucky enough to be one of the first people to take one of the first master's qualifications that was available in England for osteopathic work with animals. I think I was only like the third or fourth person to actually take that master's degree. So I did that. So that was another 2 years of work, of training, but I could do that whilst I was working as a human osteopath. So it wasn't quite as difficult. So I did that, and then, yeah, the rest is history, really. So then treated all kinds of animals in the UK, was lucky enough to be able to work with some of the GB dressage team and endurance team members. I was a home team osteopath registered with the FEI for these particular clients of mine. So I was doing everything at home. I didn't travel with them, but I did all their care at home, as well as all kinds of other sorts of animals, horses, dogs, cats, everything like that. So that was great. I also had a human practice I was running alongside that too, which was great and really good from a horse and rider point of view to be able to treat both of them, because they both influence each other hugely. So that was that. Then 8-9 years ago, I moved to France. So I now live in the south of France. Southwest region, and so completely gave up everything in England. I've stopped treating humans. I now just treat animals, so horses, dogs, and cats, with osteopathic work, with myofascial work, and I'm also a qualified 5-element acupressure practitioner for animals too. So I combine all of that treatment in my sessions. And I'm, I guess, what you would call, a mobile practitioner. So I go out to all of my clients, drive out to see them. I don't have a practice at home as such. I have occasionally dogs who come and see me here, but most of the time I'm going out to see them through about 100-kilometer radius here. It's very different here in the south of France to what it was in England. In England, I never traveled further than probably 20 miles because there was a lot more people. I was based in the south of England. A lot more people in a much smaller radius, a lot more traffic, so you couldn't drive very far, very fast. Whereas here, it's a very rural area that I live, so all my clients are really dispersed out in a big radius. But the driving's much easier because there's not much traffic. So,
and it's probably beautiful scenery.
It is. It's stunning. It's really beautiful, and I see more wildlife than cars when I'm on the road, so it's all good.
So on average, how many patients are you seeing a day?
So part of the other reason of moving to France was to slow down a little bit. So I now only work 3 days a week, but I see on average, it depends how far I've had to travel and drive, to be honest. But on average, I see probably between 5 and 8 patients a day. But it depends how far I've traveled. Now I've been here for so long, I can really group people together in areas. So sometimes I might even stay overnight with one of my clients and then be able to see 2 days of kind of full-on treatment so I can see more. But on average, it's between 5 and 8 a day.
Sure. And are you going mainly to their houses, or are there any veterinary practices that you are collaborating with?
No, it's always to the houses. Here in France, things work a little bit differently. We still have to have the vet on board, of course, absolutely. And I still work closely with vets, but it's more a case of the vets contact me and say they want me to go and see this horse or this dog or what have you. And it tends to work in a referral way that way. If clients come to me directly, then I'll ask them to get the permission from their vet and that kind of thing. But the vets don't seem to work quite in the same way here. And it's so rural here that we have difficulty with vets who really specialize in, for example, in horse work. So there's a lot of kind of multidisciplinary teams of vets, but they don't really have any expertise in one thing or another. So they will quite often contact me and say, we don't know what's going on with this horse. Can you go and see it and then refer it back and tell us what you want us to do? So it's kind of, it's a
That's
little
great.
bit different.
I mean, that's how the teamwork works, right?
Exactly,
So, I mean,
exactly.
and I think for vets, if I think back to when I practiced and when I studied, we weren't really taught how to use our hands on soft tissue and how to diagnose.
Exactly. Yeah.
And osteopaths and vet physios are just so in tune with their hands.
Exactly.
When I progressed to a vet rehab therapist and I was doing mainly that, obviously those I upskilled there a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even we used to have small animal vets that used to do the same, would, refer on, say, where do I x-ray? I actually literally don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's where the teamwork really comes in. So
Absolutely.
I love that you have that relationship with your fellow.
Yeah, and it's so important. It's so important. And it was the same in England, but it's just slightly different because I could really go to them and say, I really need you to do X, Y, Z. And the rehab facilities in England were much better than here. Here I struggle because we don't have any, canine hydrotherapy units close by or equine hydrotherapy units close by. And, if I win the lottery, that's what I would love to do, is to set up a treadmill and, all that kind of stuff, because we really need it here. The nearest one is probably 4 or 5 hours away. And for most normal people, it's just not practical at all on a regular basis. So you kind of have to adapt what you're doing, and the vets have to adapt what they can offer. And so I do probably a lot more hands-on treatment because of that, because there's nothing else to offer these clients a lot of the time. So
are most of your clients, like, what percentage would you say are coming from veterinary referrals then?
So I would say probably 60% come to me without, and 40% come from the vet referral. But it's getting more, it's getting more and more from the vet referral. And it's very much a case of trying to educate the vets as well as to what I do and how that might be different from what someone else can do. And it's obviously it's all in a different language as well. So that's also has been a challenge in the past, not so much now, but learning another language and being able to communicate professionally to somebody else in another language is tricky, but
Are you fluent?
Yeah, pretty much now. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just slightly different way of working than it was before, but it's fine. We adapt and it's working very well. So
yeah. So how do those people that are not being referred find you? Are they finding you on your website or through social media?
No, I haven't got a website. I have a Facebook page, and it's all word of mouth. So when I first came here, I ran a few courses for riders and for riding clubs and things like that, on basic massage for horse owners and Pilates for horses, and a few simple things like that I could just get myself out there and get talking to people. And went and spoke to a few of the local veterinary practices and kind of got to know them a little bit. But then it's really come just skyrocketing through word of mouth. And I found in England that was exactly the same as well. I did have websites and things there, and I did a lot of advertising, but it never came to anything. I think it's one of those professions that's, you need the client needs to know they can trust you, and they need to know someone who's used you to know that they had a good result and that their animal felt better afterwards. And that for me doesn't seem to have come from advertising or from a website, because people don't get that as much. And in France also it's quite different. They're very behind on their kind of skills of having websites and using websites. So it's something that is coming, but I'd say it's probably about 10 years behind England. So
wow.
It's not something that people naturally go to first of all, is to see if you've got a website. Whereas in England, it's the first thing people Google you and see what you've got and who you are. But it doesn't happen like that here. So it's really just been word of mouth mainly.
Any marketing strategies that you've used or things that you've done that have just been a complete waste of time and you regret?
Certainly, I spent a lot of money when I was in England. I spent a lot of money on marketing, on advertising in local papers, for example, local newspapers or magazines, and that might go out to veterinary practices or for people to have in their waiting rooms and things like that. It just bought absolutely zero. Ended up costing a lot of money, and flyers as well, you know, putting flyers through people's doors and that kind of thing, or leaving flyers in livery yards or veterinary practices. It just cost a lot of money, and it bought nothing. It really had to come from the vet or from a word of mouth is what I experienced in the last 20 years, really.
Yeah. There's like a new type of marketing. It's like intentional word of mouth marketing. And it actually makes me really think about you know, vet rehab therapists, because I mean, there are two main ways in which we get clients. It's referrals and word of mouth.
Yeah.
And a lot of practices have grown to having 3-week waiting lists on word of mouth.
Yeah.
And you know, I think to myself, maybe in the beginning stages, we could be a little bit more intentional about it. So
Yeah.
it's called, the book is called Talk Triggers. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
Yeah, so it's basically about doing something or creating something that intentionally gets people to actually talk about you and start a conversation.
Okay.
So an example in a practice, it might be like the first time you see a patient, you make a cookie bone with the dog's name on it and say like, thanks for starting your rehab journey or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just making this up. And so you give that to the client and then they start, or maybe you give it to them at the end. And then what happens is the person, you know, is like, whoa, like I just got this is unusual. And then they are chatting or they're at a party or whatever, and you say, you won't believe actually what happened today. This osteopath that treats my dog gave me this beautiful little bone and whatever, you know, and it's got a name on it. And then they'll be, oh, that's what are you going to the osteopath for, you know? And then they'll say, oh, my dog has got this, and they go, oh, okay, like I've got a dog with that, do you think they could help?
Exactly.
And so actually creating little mini moments or like situations where that actually starts the conversation, and then the person actually has the opportunity to talk about you, because most of the other types of word of mouth just happen when somebody just by chance says, I got to quickly go take my dog to the vet, like I got to go now, and they'll say, oh, what's wrong with your dog? And then so it doesn't always happen, but this is like an intentional thing to try and like start the conversation, and hopefully and some of the like talk triggers actually can go like viral completely. Like, you know, even the media will get hold of them and say, oh wow, you know, so
that's a good idea.
Word of mouth is definitely something which I think we should all be concentrating on. So not just sitting back hoping, like actually encouraging, and also really thanking our the people that refer people to us. So you know, one of the things that I never did this, and I wish I had, is that, you know, on your little form where the client actually writes actually who referred you. You know, was it a friend, was it a family member, to their name, and then sending them some flowers or just a card or phone call or message to say, hey, thanks for the referral. So you know, those are the kind of little things which I've learned after I had my practice, which I wish
no,
the only thing I did in my practice is that I used to offer all my clients tea and little biscottis, and they used to have proper like China little teapots and everything. And we used to have a few clients that just pop in for tea without their dog. They would just come for a cup of tea and a chat. You know?
That's nice though.
So that was probably as close to a talk trigger as I had.
It's a good idea, really good idea.
So in those beginning days now, when you were in France and you did those massage, you know, things like that, did you do that in French? Had you already learned how to speak French?
No, the very first ones I did were all based for English clients. There's quite a lot of English and Dutch people around this area, so a lot of English speaking people, shall I say. So the first ones were all aimed at English speaking people, and then just grew it from there and grew my language. I could speak French enough to get by when we first got here, but certainly not to run a consultation or anything. But you know, I trained and got fluent at it pretty quickly, and the more you use it, And when you're talking about something that you know what you're talking about, if you see what I mean, it's much better to build up a core language skills as well, rather than just a random conversation. So that's kind of how I did it. And then also gave talks, like held little talks. If there was a local fete happening or something like that, then I would try and do a little talk about what is osteopathy and how you can help your animals and general care for animals and that kind of thing, to just to kind of, I suppose that's a little bit of a talking point as well, just to get me out there and my name out there and talking to people directly, rather than it being them trying to search for something online. So that's kind of how I did it, because I was like, well, no one's ever going to know who I am otherwise, and no one's ever going to just randomly search for me, this osteopath living in this tiny rural village in the middle of France. It's not going to happen. So had to kind of put yourself out there and go out of your comfort zone a bit.
So that was quite successful for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you got your name out there, and hard to do it.
Mm.
I mean, as you were talking, I was just imagining you going to vets and having to speak French to them. And I was thinking, if I had to speak a foreign language to them and try and, because it's daunting enough speaking in your own language when you go to another veterinary practice.
Absolutely.
So well done to you. I mean,
thank you.
That's huge. But speaking and doing those kind of things, it actually, you think it is daunting. Like, it's always daunting, especially if you're not that extroverted type of person. But in all the situations that I've ever done it, and I remember once actually doing a lecture, and it was in a massive auditorium, and it was I think there were like 400 vets or something. I remember being completely like, oh my gosh, this is huge. And I remember my husband saying to me, like you're good, like this is your field, you know what you're talking about. And thinking to myself, like, it's actually okay if I don't. But every single time I've ever done one of these, I've never had a tricky question or a question that I couldn't answer. Maybe a question that's not 100% related to what I do, and then I would just say, like, it's really a little bit out of my field. But then I would actually redirect it to somebody who I thought was in the field and in the audience. I'd say, like, maybe Dr. So-and-so could answer that, and then they usually can. But it's actually, the fear is always they're going to ask me a question which I'm not going to know, and I'm going to feel like an idiot. But it doesn't actually happen. They don't actually. You actually know so much more than anybody there.
Exactly.
And if it's one of your colleagues, then they're not the person who's going to ask you some tricky question. They're just to support you, actually. And so nobody's going to ask you a tricky question. It's never happened to me. So
same. And I've done quite a few lectures for the Royal Veterinary College, and I went back and did a few lectures for when I'd already trained to be an osteopath, to the veterinary nurses about other things they can do if they wanted to do something else alongside their career, type of thing. And the same sort of thing, I'd also done lectures to some of the big veterinary congresses and stuff like that. And it's exactly as you say, you're kind of like, what's the questions going to be? But it never comes, because you have more knowledge about what you're talking about than they do. It's why you're there.
And the questions they're asking are generally quite basic questions. You just don't have an understanding,
But the fear is always great.
Like, know that if you're thinking about doing this, it's actually going to be okay. It really is. And then the more you do it, the more you realize, actually, it's going to be okay. And then the less nervous you get about it, and the more actually you start to enjoy it. And it's such a great networking opportunity.
It is.
So networking with other professionals, networking with pet parents, or if they come up and speak to you, my dog this, and then that's often how you get some clients. So that's a great marketing strategy. Well done.
It's good.
Do you have any equipment that you bought, or are you just mainly treating with your hands?
No, I mainly treat just with my hands. I've very much been a hands-on. I haven't had to invest in any big equipment or anything. I'm very much a hands-on based person. That's pretty much how I do all my work.
And those talks and massage courses and things that you did, you haven't thought about maybe doing those online?
I have recently thought about doing those online, and I'm kind of in two minds with that, because it's it's such a hands-on thing. And when I run the courses, it's people love to have the direct feedback of, are you in the right place? What sort of depth are you going? What do the different tissues feel like, and how they feel between an old horse, a young horse, a different breed of horse, all that kind of thing. So it's something that I have thought about more and more to a certain extent. And what I would probably quite like to try and do is to run maybe part of it online, and then have a part of it where people can come and do a hands-on day as part of the course. But again, it's here in France, it's much more difficult. People in England kind of are just all over courses like that. I mean, when I ran them in England, they were always oversubscribed, and I have to run multiple of them here. It's much harder to get people because they have to travel a lot further to wherever you're doing it. And it just seems that the mindset of the French people is different to that of English people. So still, a lot of the people that I have coming are mainly English people, which is absolutely fine. But it's it's something I've toyed with, but I'm just not sure how successful that is if you can't be there to guide someone in a touch palpation based thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just got to like realize the limitations, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you can explain as much as you can explain.
Yeah.
And I think you can use the in-person experiences
Yeah.
to really help in a way to make the online experience as amazing as you can, you know, because you know all the questions that they've asked, so you can.
Yeah.
I think the online component is second, you know, to the other, and it's a choice. Like they either can learn that way or not learn at all.
Yeah.
So so sometimes they won't get everything, but
no, exactly.
and you get quite a lot.
The acupressure training, most of that I did was online.
Yes.
And that's also a very, very hands-on, palpable thing. And it was totally fine. So I know it does work because I've done it myself. I think it's just something I've just got to get my head. The technical side of it is also something that I'm not so au fait with. Building a course online and that kind of thing I'm getting better at the technical side of things, but it's definitely not my strong point.
Are you a member of the Veterinary Professionals Making Money online group?
No.
Okay. After this, I will send you the link. And the listeners that are interested in this, I will also post a link in the podcast description. So we have a group that is basically about 1,800 now, veterinary professionals. And so it can be anyone from vet to vet nurse to osteopath to massage therapist, anyone who's treating animals. And it is a group of professionals that are wanting to start online business or already have online business. So it's a group to network with other people. So a great way to, you know, maybe your clients need other information and there's other people that can help them. So a great way to refer other people to them. You could even set up affiliates, like a sort of referral partnership with them. So you get a percentage of their course or whatever. But then also just to help and support veterinary professionals who want to start online. So because I know it is quite overwhelming. And sometimes people don't know where to start. So please feel free to reach out to me anytime as well, and anyone else who's listening. And I'll put that link in.
Okay, great.
So if you look back now over all the years that you've had your practices, what do you think the biggest challenges for you when you first started?
I think the biggest challenges was definitely in confidence of knowing that I knew what I was doing, and getting the clients as well, but then keeping the clients. And that was always my fear. And it's, you know, it's still kind of one of those things that's in the back of the mind. Each time the phone rings, you're like, oh, it's going to be a client saying that their animals got a lot worse or something like that. And it's kind of, that was there a lot in the beginning, and it never was. It never, ever was. It was always either someone booking a new client or a client ringing going, can't believe the difference in my animal. It's amazing. But there was definitely, that was one of the biggest challenges personally I had to overcome, was confidence in that it's okay. You've done the good job, and you've helped the animal in some way, as well as just, you know, having that capacity, I mean, I was lucky because I had my husband, so we had his income as well. But having that as a backup is definitely was helpful, because I think going out on your own from scratch when you have nothing, you have no clients, and it takes time. It does take time to build up a good client base that's going to give you a good regular income. And not every client, as you know, you need to see again and again and again. Some of them you might only need to see a couple of times and then don't need to see them for a while. So that was definitely a big thing, and confidence, in not thinking that every phone call was going to be someone wanting to tell you that animal was worse.
That's like the imposter syndrome creeping in, right? After all those years of study and doing your masters and everything that you studied, Yeah, I think that is actually just, it's a type of people that go into like healthcare. I think we're a specific type of person, and we're just like want to be everything. And so scared we won't be. So
we want to help everyone and every animal and do the right thing. And
exactly. And we're so scared that something we do is going to harm or do wrong, or not do what we wanted to do. And like you say, you still have it. So the funny thing is that you don't, like, I remember when I was sort of a younger veterinarian, always thinking that was going to go away. It never really goes away. It gets better, but you still have it.
You can ignore it a lot more now and go, don't be so stupid. It's not going to happen.
And then also, like, you might have a week or, a day when you don't have as many consult books. And, oh gosh, like this is it. That going down. I'm not going to have any consults. So then, like a quieter week, and then the next week it's crazy, and then it was so quiet like the week before. And
exactly.
Your mind plays tricks with you, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So definitely.
If you could offer advice to somebody who is starting out, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, do the best training that you can, pay for the best training that you can pay for. Don't try and just do a cheap course here or there. Really do your research, go for the best course that you can do, and go for the best course that you can do thinking about the future as well, that might be recognized if you wanted to move country, for example, or do something somewhere else. So that would be one piece of advice. Second piece of advice would be to just go out, do it, touch as many animals as you possibly can, even if you're not going to go and treat them. Friends who've got horses or dogs or cats or whatever, just ask them if you can have a palpate of them and just feel them and touch them, because it's such a sensory thing, having to, I kind of describe it of having to turn your fingers into eyes. So, and that really takes time. I mean, I can remember back to when I first started my human training as an osteopath, and in one of the very first practical classes that we had, where we were all palpating each other, and the teacher said, oh, you got to be able to feel this particular muscle separate from this one. And I remember just touching this person and thinking, that's complete madness. I'm never, ever going to be able to distinguish this from that or feel the range of motion or whatever. But the more you do it, the more your fingers get that link to your brain and they become like eyes. So it's just touch, 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 touch. But also for me too, one of the other huge things that really made a big difference to me was doing dissection. So doing human and animal dissections, because that, for me, I need to see things and I need to touch things to really impregnate them in my brain. And for me, doing dissections and seeing exactly what's under your fingers, touching exactly what's under your fingers that you don't normally get to do unless you're a surgeon, and really feeling and seeing those things just really creates such a different mental image when you have this animal who obviously has all his skin attached, and you come to them and you touch them and you lay your hands on and you sink your hands in. You know exactly what is underneath your hands because you've seen it, you've touched it, you've taken it apart. So for me, dissection was a huge thing. If you get a chance to be able to do it hands-on, it's massive.
I love that. That's a great tip. I think that spatial sort of recognition of different muscles and how they relate to other structures. You know, when you have the dog and it's all covered in skin and you just learn from a textbook, you just can't appreciate that and how it actually all fits together. And to actually get that sort of, you know, that vision. And they, who works for Onlinepethealth, I don't know if you've seen any of her drawings.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They are really amazing.
Yeah.
And I must say, like, some of them now, she's just created one now for ipsos injuries. And, you know, it's so hard to describe that to your clients. That drawing is just so spot on. It's just like, you can see it. And I think for a lot of people who haven't, you know, even doing dissections, some of those kind of things, sometimes it's hard because you can't remember everything and just isolate one thing. Those drawings are really great. I mean, we never had anything like that at vet school. These drawings that were just, you know, the outside and then the inside, and that was it, you know, not this isolated kind of thing.
No, exactly.
So thanks, Kate. It's been so awesome chatting to you. The last question I have for you is, how do you handle now, because you're quite isolated there, right? And you know, you obviously have clients that are really, really far. When you go on holiday, how do you handle, like, who looks after your clients for you?
I don't take many holidays.
That's okay. That was the answer. Yeah, that's one of the problems.
No, we tend to go on holiday maybe just 1 week in the beginning of the year and 1 week towards the end of the year, because we also have a gîte here that we rent out too. So during the May to September, we don't go anywhere anyway. So yeah, clients just have to take a week in the beginning and a week at the end without me. Yeah, they can survive that.
Kate, it's been so lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what you're doing next. And really, I hope you get your online component going, because it sounds like you've done a lot of the work already.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It'd be great.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, thanks.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I load a new podcast. I'm here every week talking to vet rehab therapists from all over the world about all things vet rehab. A big thanks to our sponsor, Curacao Vet. Their sponsorship allows us to be able to give this podcast to you for free, so please go and check them out at curacao.org. Please also don't forget to bookmark the next Vet Rehab Summit. It's on Saturday the 8th of November in 2025. Come and be a part of the world's largest online veterinary rehabilitation conference created specifically for you, the vet rehabber community. Onlinepethealth members, you get VIP complimentary access to the Vet Rehab Summit. For more information about continuing education for vet rehabbers, you can go to onlinepethealth.com.